So after about 40 to 45 minutes, it'll be quite hot now, so I'm going to start turning on my cooling water. And you want this to come out at about 2.5 litres per minute, and make sure it's cold. And then you just want to watch the temperature for here, because at between 70 to 75 degrees Celsius on there, it's going to, spirit will start coming out, dripping out, and this will be your 4 runnings. So it's flowing quite nice and fast now, and what I'm currently doing is what's known as a stripping run. So this is the wash, it's gone into the boiler. This is the first time this wash is passing through the still, and it's just separating the alcohol from the wash, the water in there, and it's just getting rid of maybe some unwanted flavours produced by the yeast and things like that, and separating the alcohol essentially. So I'll keep this going until the ABV alcohol percentage by volume is at about 18%. It's somewhat of a judgment call when you want to stop it, so a good thing is to taste it. So I've finished my stripping run, and I've done a stripping run on 2 of the same washes, and the reason I've done that is to build up volume in the boiler for when I'm doing my spirit run, and this means I can just get out a bit more alcohol at the end, the good alcohol, and it just makes the whole process a bit more efficient, because the next step we're going to do is the spirit run, and this is the one where you really have to pay attention to doing things like cuts and that. So I've done my stripping run on 2 washes. I let them both go down to 18% ABV, and I've put them back into the boiler. Now the overall ABV in the boiler right now is about 35–40% ABV. And so this, I'm just going to I just connected it up the same way. I'm going to turn the boiler on again, and just like last time, turn the cooling water on, but this time when the alcohol starts coming out, that's when I'm going to start focusing on doing things like cuts. So just turn this on, and I'll just let this heat up again. So for the spirit run, it's quite useful to have a few or quite a lot of separate vessels, because you're going to want to collect the alcohol coming out in sections of your heads, hearts and tails, and the more sections you collect, the more you can test it and taste it, and then blend it at the end to get the spirit that you want, and a nice tasting spirit. So I'll just talk about cuts and what they are and why we do them. So in the alcohol here contains different compounds called congeners, and the lighter congeners will come out first. So the first bit that comes out will be your heads, and they'll be the lighter congeners, and they will contain things like the very first bit, like methanol, for instance. And in general, the heads, they'll taste very strong, very solventy, very spirit-like. And the very last cut is your tails, and they're the heavy compounds, the heavy congeners, so they come out at the end, and they'll taste a bit more. They'll lose that harshness of the spirit flavour, and in the very late end, they can kind of have a old newspaper vegetable taste, but and that's why we do these cuts, because of these different tastes. So we'll just let this, once it heats up, our heads will start coming out soon. I've got some action going out here, and I've got some drips coming out, and this is the heads that's coming out now, and you can do a little taste of it, and it's very strong. This is coming out at about 80% ABV, and I'll just collect. So what I'll do is I'll just collect this in sections. I'll look at my temperature. I'll let it go to till the temperature reaches about 91, 92 degrees Celsius, and then I'll taste it again and see if I can do my cut and get into the hearts phase. But at this stage, yeah, I'm definitely into the heads. It's very strong, and I'll collect that and put it aside. So just as a reminder, just remember the first 50 mils of alcohol that comes out contains a lot of methanol, so you just want to get rid of that first 50 mils. So yeah, just remember that. But we're approaching the end of the hearts phase, the heads phase here, and generally what we look at is the temperature, and it's at about 91, 92 degrees Celsius that we want to start going into the hearts phase, which will taste very nice. So, but again, a real important thing is to just keep tasting the spirit. Just run your finger and keep tasting it, because we can give guidelines for temperature and certainly look at those, but spirit making is it's how you like to drink, and it's what you like. So just keep doing it, and the more you do, the more you taste the flavors that you like. For instance, that's when you do your cut. There's essentially no wrong or right, it's just what you prefer. But in general, when it's about 92 degrees, we're going to start in our hearts phase. So I'm just going to swap jugs over and save the heads, and so we'll just be collecting the hearts. And again, within the hearts you can make some cuts again for blending later, so just keep tasting it. Generally, if you look at it by alcohol, we'll be running the hearts phase until we are at about 60% ABV, so yeah, just get that going. I'm getting very close to the end of my parts. I've just had a taste, and it's that real earth-like taste. You'll definitely notice it, because it's tasted like a spirit, like you can imagine a whiskey tastes like, to become quite weak. It's diluted a lot. So yeah, I'll do my tails cut now, as it's known. So I'll get that in there, and what I'm going to do for the tails is I'll let that run in, and because sometimes during the blending you can blend a little bit of this tails into your final spirit, and that really helps to not make it as harsh if you don't want it as harsh, and it also brings in some interesting flavors into the spirit, depending on whether you add tails or not. It's going to bring different flavors, so it's really fun to play around with things like that. But I'll be collecting my tails now until I get down to about 10% ABV. The reason I do that is because the tails that I don't use in the spirit, I can add to any future runs of whiskey to bring up the ABV in there, and I can just add it in there to bring up some extra volume. So I'll just let my tails run till I get down to about 10%. So I've done my tails cut, I've let it go down to 10% ABV, and I've switched everything off. Now, if this is your first time distilling and you're a bit unsure like what the next step is, and about the next step will be blending, but if you're a bit unsure, what you can do is, in general speaking right now, the best part of what we've collected now is the hearts. That's the nice part. That's where it's not too harsh, but it's not too earthy, like it's the nice spirit. So you can take the hearts that you've collected and you can put some oak chips in that, and you can age that. But a real great thing about whiskey, the whiskey making process, is the blending stage, and that's just blending the different sections you've got into the different spirit to get a different outcome in the end. So a really good thing to do is to get a few jars that you put your final spirit in, but they're different. One might just be hearts, one might be hearts with a little bit of heads and a little bit of tails, and then you can age all that and see the difference at the end. But by all means, just do hearts if you want. But next step, I'll just give you some tips on blending.